Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Xenia Factor. I'm your host, Ariel Xenia, and this is the space where we elevate as women and step into our soft power. In today's episode, we are talking about culture and confidence, specifically how to make your backstory work for you, especially as you step into more high profile spaces. So, for this conversation, I had to invite our next guest, Isabel Bogner, who is a content creator, new business owner, political wife, and cultural storyteller. So, Isabel and I are mutuals on TikTok. Of course, the algorithm showed me her content, and I fell in love with her point of view, the poise that she brings, and specifically the thing we'll be talking about in this episode, that cultural backstory. Isabel grew up in Mexico in a family dedicated to public service. She is now married to an elected official in the United States. After working alongside her husband on his reelection campaign and later on his campaign for U.S. Congress, she began focusing her work on leadership, faith, and cultural contrasts that she experienced during the legislative season between both countries, which I just find so fascinating. She now helps women refine their public presence, especially those navigating spaces where they might feel out of place, so they can show up with confidence and grace. So obviously there's so much alignment here with what we've talked about on the Xenia Factor, and I'm really excited to share with you Isabel's point of view, her experience, her work in this conversation, in this episode. And she was also tuning in from Mexico, where she was visiting her family. So it's even more authentic to the topic. And without further delay, let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome to the Xenia Factor, Isabel.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I am honored to be here on your podcast.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. And I know you're tuning in from Mexico. So, how has your trip been going?
It's been so nice, being able to finally get back home and see my parents. It's been refreshing and, just exactly what I needed.
I bet. So, we have plenty to talk about today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. But I always like to start with a little icebreaker. So, this is a question that I've been curious to ask you.
Okay.
Who is your style icon?
Huh. Well, I think someone I really like to catch some inspiration from is definitely Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. I
Mm,
really like her aesthetics and timeless, just how effortlessly beautiful she was. Just not too much, just the right.
mhm.
Really like that about her.
hmm I believe that was called sort of the minimalist era, right?
Yes.
Or minimalist fashion, very timeless, very chic, very classic.
Yes, I really like that about her. So definitely her for sure. I have others, of course, like I also love colors and, bring
hmm
some parts of my culture, absolutely. But I like to balance that a little bit.
hmm So I know that you grew up in Mexico and you talked about, your upbringing being sort of an early exposure to life in public service. So I'm just curious if, you could share your experiences about what that was like and how it shaped your understanding of public service and public life in the role that you play today.
Yeah, that is a great question. So, growing up in Mexico, my family was deeply involved in public service. My dad and some relatives served as public service, figures. And so that, from a very young age, that shaped my idea of public service. And so what I realized when I was young is that politics is not just about power, it's about responsibility. And that definitely was something that shaped how I see public life now. You know, first of all, a service and not a status, right? And to my surprise, when I met my husband, I recognized that same spirit of service. He's an elected official here in Montana, and uh, you know, growing up with my dad, he cared deeply for his community, and he taught me that in public life, one of the most important things are your name, your legacy, and your relationships. And I don't think that those things changes from one country to another. Like I said, I experienced that same spirit in my husband in America. So I
Mm-hmm.
think one universal truth in public life is that the root of success for any public figure anywhere in the world is their ability to connect with people, to earn their trust, to earn their admiration, their friendship, and eventually even, the ability to shift their perspectives, shift their beliefs, So I think it's just, I find it fascinating.
I love what you said about status versus, what was it? Status versus service.
Service versus status. Yes, absolutely.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes. I feel like a lot of people is immediately when you think about politics, public service, a public figure, it's a status, right? But when you do it for the right reasons and you think about it in a long term, it's definitely not that. It's
Mm-hmm.
your community. It's looking for others and think about others, but you. And it's beautiful. I find that beautiful. I mean, when it's for the right reasons, right?
Yes, and like you said, it's a responsibility. It's not just to elevate yourself. You are a
Yes,
representative of your community.
exactly. It's powerful, it's beautiful, but it's a responsibility. Absolutely. You can't, you know, do what everybody else does. And not only let's not even talk about public figures or politics or things like that. Like when you are the wife of a pastor,
Mm-hmm.
when you are the leader in your local community, even in school, right? When you lead this group from for your kids, things like
Mm-hmm.
that, you are the representation of something, and so it's important to think about that as it is.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the things that I really enjoy about your content and your point of view is how you talk about embracing your cultural differences and embracing your cultural background as a woman, as a public woman. So I'm really curious to hear, based on your experience, what are some of the most striking differences between life in the US and life and culture in Mexico?
I think that is such a beautiful question. Mexico taught me three things. The value the value of hospitality,
Mm. Yes.
value of warmth,
Mm-hmm.
and the value of personal relationships. In Mexico, having a friendly and passionate personality with your community and being smart about the people you surround yourself with can take you really far. The US taught me, on the other hand, like that logical side of things.
Mm-hmm.
How to be efficient, how to be disciplined, how to be structured. And that's, for example, something that I have carried into my new business. That has been really, really helpful. However, I'm not saying that Mexican culture does not have a structure or discipline. Mexicans are resilient, resilient. They are hardworking. They are very committed to what they do. But in the US, those skills really stand out, right? And so also it's no wonder that they call it the Mexican charm, the Mexican charm, because we are so warm and friendly and those things. So I think that it's just I love how I can take the best of both worlds. The warmth of Mexico that also sometimes Americans find it as like a breath of fresh air, and the intentionality and structure from America, right? And I find it really, it's just fascinating how instead of seeing countries as divided, we can actually take the best of the cultures, not only American culture or Mexican culture, but all cultures, because I just think that there's so much richness in cultures that we can all learn from, you know?
Mhm. And actually, I was thinking as I was listening to you, here in the United States, we have so many different cultures. We have so many immigrants from all over the world. Our culture isn't just American all the time, it's actually a mixture. Whereas, I don't know, I'm curious about your opinion if you think that's different in Mexico because maybe, there's a little bit of a difference in the population in terms of how many different cultures you might have.
That's such a great question. I think the culture, like the solid foundation of the culture is the same, but definitely if you go to the north, you'll find
Right.
different parts of it. You know, like I will never do here in the center west of the country. If you go to the south, you'll find other different, a slightly different
Hmm.
things going on around culture, but is the same foundation. It is like I don't think we have that mix that you mentioned in America for obvious reasons. However, yeah, I can definitely see different um, things around it, like especially in food. Like I go to some places in the north of Mexico for the food or for
Hmm.
the activities that they do there. That also, the weather also plays another factor there.
Hmm.
But I'll say it's not as in America. Absolutely not. I
Hmm.
don't.
Yes, and I don't want to be misquoted or misrepresented saying all of Mexico is the same because I know that's not true. But I
No,
was just thinking, yeah, I was just thinking about it, because a lot of times we talk about American culture as also being the same and we kind of have these archetypes and stereotypes, but that's really not the case. So,
I agree with you.
mhm. So in your work, you mentioned, there's certain things that you want to carry forward. And I'm just curious, once again, maybe what are those elements of Mexican culture that you're bringing into the work that you're doing now, into the role that you're doing now?
I noticed that on the legislation, we just finished the Montana legislative session, and so we have a group. It's called the Legislative Spouses Group. Basically, we meet every other day to do many different kind of things like Bible studies, and we go to different healing centers. We visit different organizations, and we work. We do also fundraisings, events for different committees in the capital. One of them, it's actually one where I'm the president of that committee. It's called the Enhancement Spaces Committee, and basically what we do is we do different activities. For example, a tea party type of event, and we raise
Oh,
some
that sounds nice.
funds so then we can like buy something for. I know it's so cute, and we like this year, well, this legislative session, we got two benches for the clock room of the Senate, and they're like just super beautiful Victorian benches and really really nice. And so every legislation like gets a little piece of the spouses. If you for some reason you only had the opportunity to be in that specific legislative session, you know that your work is in there forever, will stay there forever. So that's something really beautiful. I'm saying all those things because I got to experience and connect with all these women from different backgrounds, most of them in their 60s, and I was the youngest there. And it's really interesting how they all said like you were the highlight of this session. It was also my first legislative session, and my first year of being married. So there's a lot going on, and I just feel like my personality being like so warm and friendly, and like I noticed how in America people like have a more mm, serious type of personality, and it's just different, and I have also learned so much from that, like be more prudent and things
Hmm.
like that. Basically what I'm saying is Mexican culture is loud, and so I have definitely carried that with me now, like being more like I don't know how to explain, but
I would
more.
say reserved.
Yes, and I definitely have learned a lot from them during the
Hmm.
legislation. But when it's just us and we are, finishing with our Bible study, it's just like this warmth of like, let me know what's going on. I want to know all the details. Like I ask questions, and I think
Hmm.
that's what I have carried with me, in America and what I do. Now on my work, I feel like just the warmth. I think the warmth. I don't really want to be the type of content creator that just shows how to ABC, and this is how I want to get more clients, and just always targeting my clients, my clients, my clients, like they're not human beings. And
Hmm.
so definitely showing who I am and just being myself and trying to be more human. I think that's something that I'm carrying with myself that also portrays Mexican culture in a way.
Hmm. And your work really stands out.
Oh,
And I
thank you.
love, even in the video where you were talking about it, you were recommending to women that, your cultural background, your cultural differences are actually an asset,
Yes,
and learning to see them as such. And that, yes, walking into a room with older women who maybe have gone through this legislative process before, and maybe they've done it in a particular way and they're used to particular personalities or approaches, they're actually refreshed,
exactly.
and we don't want or need everyone to be the same. And sometimes it can be a breath of fresh air, and it can set you apart, and it can even become part of your personal brand.
Absolutely, absolutely. I even I hosted a like a farewell party. Um, yeah, just to wrap up things on
Hmm.
legislation, and it was so much fun. It was around Easter, so I
Hmm.
I, I hide some eggs around my place, and
Yes.
they were all trying to find the eggs, and then we had this game. I always forget the name of this game, but it's like the game where you put the head and then well, I don't know if you know about it, but like this game of like it's some words, you gotta find the words, and then if the word is
Hangman.
yes, the hangman. Oh my gosh, we play hangman, and I was giving them little winner prizes and things.
Hmm.
We had so much fun, and they never like. There's some people that has been there for years, like 8 legislations, 10 legislations, and they
Hmm.
were like, "Oh my gosh, no one has ever done this for us ever." And so it's really fun that I also like. They also picked me to be the president of a committee. That's something that I was like, what? No, like, why me? Like, really pick someone else. But they were like, no, you can do it. You can do it. You'll do a great job and things like that. So I think that it's definitely a breath of fresh air. Absolutely. Just don't, being afraid of showing your personality and your culture.
Right.
That's another thing because a lot of people, especially in America, I notice sometimes this sense of like oppressing your culture because of all this going on right now.
Hmm.
I agree with that. I think you should be 100% proud of your culture, but being also very respectful of the country that welcomed you.
Right.
So I think as long as you do that and you embrace both and balance both, aligned both things, you'll thrive.
Yes. And, I think in America, corporate culture is also a really big thing.
Very interesting history.
Corporate culture. And so I think people are craving, and not in the same way that corporate culture necessarily exists in other countries. You know, my mother's an immigrant. She came from Europe. So we go back overseas to see our family all the time. And America prioritizes work and corporate culture in such a way that I think people do feel a little constricted, a little stifled, and they're honestly really craving something fun. And like what you're speaking to, it made me think about what you were talking about earlier with your upbringing. You know, it's about connection and relationships. And so if we feel that we have to suppress part of ourselves or become, you know, so buttoned up in the sense that, you know, we're just like you were talking about your work, clients, 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 like that warmth is something that everybody's craving. And it actually makes our work better because if you feel connected to people, if you're having fun with them, if you're laughing with them, it's much easier to, you know, go to the next step, do the next initiative, whatever it is.
They have to trust you as well.
Mm-hmm.
They won't listen to you unless they trust you and see you as your friend. Friendship is very important when you are, seeking being a public figure. I have to wanna be your friend. I have to wanna, like, it's important for me as the audience to admire you or to wanna be your
Mm-hmm.
friend. I need to trust you. So it's about relationships, like you said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that takes us into our next question where we're really getting into the meat of the conversation here. So you and I both talk about soft power and influence in similar and sometimes different ways. And so I'm really curious to hear kind of your perspective on it for everyone listening. Why do you think that women need a different strategy for power? Why can't we just go to the bro seminar and, you know, do it that way?
Mhm. Women throughout history have been taught that in order to succeed, we have to do more, right? Um, so, especially in a world where big industries were led by men. And so I think that that's exactly the reason why women have been, underestimated in public life. But here's the thing, pushing ourselves to do more, to constantly do more, is exactly what's leading so many of us to burn out, right?
Mhm.
So I 100% agree with you that we have to change the strategy. I think we have to change the strategy, absolutely. But we don't have to work harder than men. We have to work smarter, right? And so instead of suffering because, oh, we don't have the same opportunities than them and all those things, we can actually recognize that actually gives us a different kind of advantage,
Mhm.
right? And so, because our strength comes through influence, it comes through presence, it comes through connection, right?
Mhm.
And so, power is not about being the loudest in the room, it's about being the one people want to listen to. And so, if you want to be a successful public figure, here's a strategy I always talk about. There are three things that you have to consider. You have to overcome the fear. You have to show your expertise. And also, you have to um, build your confidence. And so,
Mhm.
we always break that in four areas that you need to constantly work on. And the number one is your spiritual life. It's very important that you stay grounded, right?
Mm. Yes.
Have to, it's part of you. Like, you can't just be like hustling constantly. You gotta find your center. You also have to work on your body. Moving your body 30 minutes a day, it's so important. It's a non-negotiable for me and for people that follow this. Also, your image. Your image is very important. How you show up, how you present yourself matters. And number four is your work and finance. How to make money, how to build financial literacy. And I
Hmm.
think that by working on these four areas, you're gonna build your confidence so much. And you know, all of us have weaknesses.
Hmm.
but so most importantly, I think that at the same time it's important that you don't forget the qualities that God has placed in you, right? Those things that people always complimented in you, that always noticed in you, because, like I said, we all have weaknesses, but when those often start to fade once you start working on those four areas, right? So that's one part that I think it's important. But also, influence does not always look like standing on a stage or shouting your expertise. Like you don't have to be a political wife or a public figure to apply these things, right? Sometimes the most powerful influence comes through what we call the soft power. And so that soft power is the kind that comes through consistency, care, and character, right? And so when you apply those three things in whatever you do, honestly, people will people won't hear you. People will truly want to listen to you. And that is real influence, not just force.
Right. I love what you said about, it's not about being loud, but do people want to listen to you?
Yes.
And developing your confidence, because I think as women, a lot of times we might feel out of place in certain situations. And again, or you might be the minority. So you might be one of the few women in attendance. And again, you're seeing how the men in power do it, and we have a world demonstrating how the men in power do it.
Hmm.
And what I hear you saying is that going within
Hmm.
is actually the secret to cultivating that influence instead of trying to match or do it in the way that you've seen. So I'm just curious, if you've had any instances or experiences that kind of led you to that conclusion.
Yes, absolutely, all the time. Um, I've been with my husband into three campaigns at this point. His re-election campaign and his um, campaign for the Senate, and then when he ran for Congress last year. And so I mean, it's a state, it's Montana, it's in the north of the country, so you don't really get to see people that look like me, especially in politics. And so it's something that I had to develop in my
Hmm.
own, you know. Well, first of all, if I know that no one really look like me and I am in a way by myself, of course not, but like in a way because like you don't feel that sense of like community there.
Right.
um, I had to find ways to show what I have without really looking about the things that I didn't have. And that's something that I feel like women right now struggle a lot. They stay in victimhood. And that's why I just don't agree with that because like we have so much to do it with our own resources. And when I noticed that that's what I had to work with, well, I was like, okay, so what I need to do is I have to be more involved. The more I'm involved with this new world that I am, the more people will see who I am and not, because on it, also that's another thing with your culture and with your background, there is also some stereotypes. And so
Hmm.
my responsibility that I break those stereotypes with the people that sees me for the first time. So I think that's something important, that you find your own resources and forget about what people think or say about your culture, your
Right.
background, your whatever it is. That's why I'm very passionate about these topics because I'm living those things in my own
Mhm.
life every single
Right.
day. Yeah.
Right. And like you talked about, I was glad to hear you say the first thing is kind of that spiritual grounding. And again, going within to whatever that is for you personally, but not to think that you're showing up to these places and missing something or that you have to do it how they're doing it. That you can come as yourself and come with your own unique gifts, your own perspective, your own point of view, your own culture. And I liked what you said about, being consistent and not, I was kind of maybe reading through the lines a little bit, but not trying to prove, but just I'm here. I'm here. Presence. And that's one thing I wish women understood is that your presence alone speaks volumes.
Yeah.
You simply being there is enough, but we don't trust that.
I got you.
So,
Yes.
do you have any advice for somebody who, or what would you say to a woman maybe who's on that precipice? Like she understands it intellectually, like when she's listening to your content, she's listening to this podcast, she's like, yes, I get it, my presence is enough, but we haven't yet made the shift to really living it.
I think it all comes to confidence. I feel like sometimes women does not like, first of all, they haven't made the decision that that it's truly what they want.
Hmm.
So it, the moment that you made the decision that you really want to change your presence in general, your life, is the moment that you're going to start taking the steps. But no one is going to do it for you unless you decide. So that's the first
Hmm.
step. You have to decide. You have to really want it. Number two, it's again, the four steps that I have. You have to be connected to God, to talk to Him and tell Him, like, throughout my life, I haven't been able to do it by myself. And if you don't help me, if you don't, give me the strength to start in this journey that I want to build for myself, because I'm not comfortable in the life I'm living right now, I'm not able to do it. So that's one part, like being very rooted to your faith. The second part is that the more that you look in the mirror and you feel comfortable with your own body, the you're gonna be able to start thinking, you know what? I want to put that dress on. I want to put some makeup on, but those things are superficial. That doesn't matter if when you put some makeup on and you look in the mirror, you don't like what you see.
Right. I call it, and I teach it as becoming your own gaze.
I love that. Yes,
Become
exactly.
your own gaze.
Yes.
And then the outer becomes a reflection of how you see yourself internally. They're in alignment. But like you said, if you don't get there from the inside and whatever faith you might have, for me, being out in nature makes me feel completely connected. I get a sense of confidence from being in nature
I agree with you. Yes.
because, she's so beautiful and
Right?
she's so peaceful and she just is like she doesn't need to prove or force or anything. And just that frequency allows me to have that conversation with myself. Um, but like you're saying, if you don't have that foundation internally, then when we go to do the dress, the hair, no amount of glam can cover up what's going
Just
on inside.
you said it beautifully. Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah. And so once you finish with that, once you feel more comfortable with yourself because you move your body 30 minutes, it's in my opinion, sometimes my I can't comprehend the fact that we don't have 30 minutes for ourselves to move our bodies. I just can't comprehend it. Like whatever it is, it could be
Hmm.
dance, it could be walking outdoors, it could be whatever it is. We have so much access right now.
Hmm.
Um, and just by doing that, you will start feeling more confident. Um, and then it goes the image, right? Then you start
Right.
to taking care of yourself. But if you don't feel good with your own skin, it's gonna be hard for you to actually put in the effort.
I love the realness, getting right to the core. Like, and these are the conversations that need to be had and the truths that need to be told because you cannot hack your way through this.
Exactly. I am so real with when I'm seeking for advice or I want to know things. I really don't like the, colors and unicorns or whatever. I I want someone to tell me what's going on and what I'm doing wrong.
Right,
And just tell me. I want to be better.
right.
That's the hunger of being better and
Hmm.
wanting to be a better, the best version of yourself. So I'm glad that you appreciate that.
Yes, I'm really hearing you say that, the secret is really within yourself
Yes,
and that the influence and it makes sense because I always say, you know, it's easier for people to fall in love with you, to be magnetic when you see yourself in that way, when you love yourself. Like if you want princess treatment, because everybody says, "How do I get princess treatment?" If
absolutely.
you will get it if you already give it to yourself.
Exactly.
Literally. So from the inside out is the most important. But switching gears here for a moment, you know, we've talked about this internal process to awaken the confidence from within, to fully be in alignment so that when you show up, you're not rattled, you're not thinking, "Oh my gosh, I'm the only one." You're showing up like I am the one. Hello.
That's that's right. Yes, I love that. Exactly.
So we have that process, but something else that I love that you talk about in your content and something that I kind of dip my toe in as well is okay, now that we have that confidence, now that we see ourselves as the one, there's an element of strategy that all women need to learn.
Always.
Being strategic is one of the best things that you can do for yourself as a woman, not being ruled by your emotions, your impulses. But I've found, and even in my background as a dance teacher, I grew up doing classical ballet. And so there's somewhat of a resistance, I find, with women sometimes that they see strategy and discipline as oppressive or I'm going to lose, like in dance, the analogy, because I would hear a lot of clients say this, like, I don't want to lose my creativity. I don't want to lose my authenticity. So when you're thinking about, women who want to become more public in their image, they're high powered, they have a high profile, how do they embrace becoming strategic without losing authenticity?
That is such a beautiful question because what I'm catching from what you're saying is that people really think that, and it's true, 100%, that strategic immediately means losing who I am.
Right? Or cold.
Yes, exactly. Or cold. Like I'm not gonna be myself. I
Hmm.
love love that because it's true. I think it really starts with knowing your core values. Think about it. Like, what are the topics that you can't help but speak about? What are the points that you always find yourself defending in a conversation? Because that's usually where your true convictions live.
Mhm.
Right? So that's one thing, knowing your core values, but also the strategy is the how, and authenticity is the why, right? And so when your why is clear, your strategy doesn't feel fake because people quickly understands your purpose behind your voice, right? And so instead of creating a persona, you are just amplifying who you already are.
Mhm.
And so that's why finding your why that defines your identity and your purpose, in my opinion, is one of the most important steps. And also, of course, having clarity on your core values, I think those things are the foundation, solid foundation.
Mhm. And I like how you said it can become the how,
Hmm.
and it will actually get you the result that you desire. Because as I was listening to you, I keep thinking about this example I would give to students when they would say, "Oh, I don't want to limit my creativity." And I would say, "Okay, well, anyone can pick up a saxophone and start playing,
Hmm.
but if they don't learn the technique, it'll come out as noise."
Right.
So
That's
when
the
you
how.
have, right, when you have those convictions, channeling them through a strategy will get you to have the impact that you desire faster.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, you can be authentic without having a structure, without having a strategic, without having your how. Because then it's dreams. And it's great to have dreams, but you're gonna stay dreaming right there on the same level. And if you wanna, keep climbing, you gotta have a structure and a strategy, right? To like start developing one to accomplish.
Right. And impact and influence is, you know, it's real and a lot of people want it, but it, like you said, it's not going to happen by dreaming and wishing.
That's right. Exactly. That's right.
Beautiful. So, one thing that you've talked about, and, I would definitely consider you an expert in, among many things, is navigating high pressure events.
Yes.
I'm sure
Oh,
you've had a
yes.
lot of experience with that. And
Oh,
like I said, I can't even imagine being in the political world. And like we talked about, there's that layer of corporate culture that sort of pervades all of American life. And then on top of it, the political pressure, especially in today's climate.
yes.
My goodness.
Especially having the background I have. Oh my Lord. If one day you wanna like just get entertained, go check my comments.
I don't even
Fine.
need to. I can already imagine. But there's probably a lot of women listening, from your audience, from mine, who might have an event coming up. So, what would be your number one tip for anyone listening who has maybe a reception or a dinner that they're about to attend, a conference they're about to go to, and they already know it's going to be spicy? What is what is your number one tip for them?
Oy, oh, okay. So I wish I had the ultimate piece of advice
Right.
for it.
Well, this is just for the
I
podcast.
wish.
It's not,
Yeah,
I
I wish.
understand it cannot be,
Okay.
chunked down.
Okay, great. Because like, but I'm gonna think about it. Like, I think it's a good one. However, I think that when you walk into an event like that, you should be able to answer key questions, right? And my advice is not going to be about image, about dress, about makeup, because we have already covered that on the other four steps. But this is something that no one talks about. And you should be able to answer, what's this event really about? You should be able to answer, what do they stand for? What do they care about? The people that is attending. And most importantly, what's your personal take on it? Because
Ooh.
that last one is your voice, and it's how you're going to be able to connect with the people on that event, while networking. Because, like, here's the thing, you don't want to be caught on a conversation, asked for your perspective, and not have a solid take. That will
Mhm.
literally mean missing on an important connection on your next step. So that is definitely something very, very important. When you have a solid take and you even have the confidence to speak about things, people will literally be like, okay, here's my card, give me your card, we need to talk. And that's how you start building your networking, and that's how big political figures have grown and have, in the first place, you know the people that are right now. So through connections and relationships. So that's one important thing that I think you should consider, even if you are the plus one. That's another thing. I actually closed one client from being a plus one for my own business. Has nothing to do with my husband, and it was his event, right? Because I know what I'm carrying with me. I know what I'm doing with my own self that has nothing to do with my husband. I am not just the political wife. I also got those comments too, like, oh, that happens when you don't have any identity and you are just the political wife. And I'm like, okay, I'm not even have to answer that question because you definitely do not know me, first of all. And second of all, like, you have to also, that's why the fourth point is your work and your finance. You have to learn how to make your own money and how to be independent in your own, in what you're passionate about. So um so how that happened is by me talking and just sharing what I'm doing and having a solid perspective on things. That person, you know how can I say it? Like, we shared the same perspective, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, what? That's amazing. Tell me more about what you're doing." That person got interested on what I was doing because I had a solid take on, the topic we were discussing. So that's important. But besides words, I also think that it's very important that you protect your energy, right? I think that when you walk in calm, you're grounded, and you are intentional, not scrambling uh, to fill every silence. You're gonna be able to make people remember remember how you made them feel, far more than the exact words you say, right?
Right.
So when you protect your energy and you are grounded, calm, focused, um, people will feel it, and people will be like, oh my gosh, she made me feel really nice, she let me talk, I connected with her, that's amazing. And people will remember that. They won't care about what you said, believe me. So I think by doing that, you'll thrive on your next important event.
I love that advice. And I was really hearing you say, respect the event and kind of hold that space first, especially being a guest of some kind. Like if it's not your personal event, know why everybody's there and what the mission is. And then when you're asked, right, like put the event first. And then when you're asked, that's when you get to have the voice. And that's when you get to have maybe even a differing opinion,
Exactly,
or
that's
a
right.
different point of view or something like that. It will be welcomed when you honor the space that you're in first.
Especially when you have a solid perspective. I love that. I love when you are able to, defend your point of view, even if the crowd does not agree with you, but the fact that you have your solid take and you believe in it, I love that for you. Like, you should be able to actually believing what you believe and be able to even debate it. But the problem is when you don't have that and when you easily move your perspective just because others is, other people is saying the opposite. So have your point of view, have your own perspectives, and when you have the opportunity to say something about it, say it, and that's networking, and it's what is going to take you far in public life.
Beautiful. So I know you said you actually closed a client while you were a plus one, which is amazing. Congratulations. And I cannot wait to see how your business continues to grow and evolve. But for anyone listening who might be interested in working with you or learning from you, where can we follow you? How can we reach out to you?
Yes, so absolutely. You can find me on TikTok at Isabel Bogner or Instagram at isabel.bogner. And yeah, I recently launched a public image studio where basically I help women sharpen their public image, especially public figures. And yeah, I share a lot there about my personal experience as a business owner and the process that I am in it right now. So yeah, I would love to connect with you there, and thank you so much for this space. I
Yes.
enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you for joining us. This was a fabulous conversation.
Thank you. I know it was amazing. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun. I also gotta say that I enjoy your content so much. So thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode.